Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am back. I don't quite think I'm going to designate myself as a mayor of any place, but I am the king currently of Chapel Hill. And we are back with our Sports Wars podcast. We took a little bit of a hiatus last week, various personal things going on, and a little bit of a slow period, but we are back. We got some NFL news to discuss. Obviously, the NCAA tournament is in full swing. And we got some more drama from the usual suspects that we're going to get into. Obviously, I'm being joined by my right-hand man, Mr. Roy Morgan. Roy, how are you doing tonight?
Good, man. I'm good. Ready to talk some more sports and dive straight into it.
Yeah, man. So, obviously, we're going to go ahead and start with our top story. About 48 hours ago, the infamous number 87, Rob Gronkowski of the New England Patriots, took to Instagram to formally announce his retirement from the NFL after 9 seasons. Obviously, the dude had a extremely dominant career. He kind of redefined and revolutionized the tight end position. And he did so basically by being the true definition of what a tight end is. He was dominant as a blocker just as much as he was dominant as a receiver. And at his size, 6'6", 265 pounds, he was a nightmare for defenders and kept coordinators up all night on many an occasion. However, his career throughout the 9 years, when it comes down to how many games he actually played, was more along the lines of 7.5 years. Injuries really took a toll on the guy, and I think that was a significant aspect of his, coming to this decision. After the loss to Philadelphia last year in the Super Bowl was the first time that he kind of publicly talked about the prospect of retirement, but the powers that be were able to convince him to come back for one more year. They made a run, and they got a fluky win, but a win nonetheless against the Rams earlier this year in February. What are your overall thoughts about his decision and the future for New England, who I don't quite think was expecting him to not come back for one more year?
It's kind of funny because I have actually, since the announcement itself, I've kind of taken a step back to kind of examine Gronkowski's career like on a whole. And sure enough, he falls behind two of the all-time greats with Tony Gonzalez and recently kind of Antonio Gates. Those are the only two guys he trails behind in total touchdowns. Right. A lot of the counter argument is going to be, he only played 9 seasons. Like you said, 7.5 when it comes to it, if you start counting the injuries and stuff. But numbers aside, like one of the things that kind of struck me is every Gronk always had, like, if you ask people about Gronkowski, he always had this kind of like football caveman persona. He was always just the fucking touchdown frat boy, and he that's what he is. I mean, that's what he was. Everybody jokes around about Gronk smash and Gronk spike, and
right.
Looking on it though, I mean, I don't want to say a weird comparison, but I think probably the most fitting comparison that I can think of is Marshawn Lynch. These are two guys who had fun while they were playing. Gronkowski happened to he was able to have fun on a team where apparently is not the fun team. Marshawn had fun wherever he went.
He was kind of an interesting element in that overall New England culture for a long time.
And I think part of the reason why they kind of let Gronk be Gronk was that, he was all about partying and having a good time, but when it came down to business, it was time for business. You didn't hear about him causing shit in the locker room. You didn't hear about him causing shit, except for that one dumbass dirty play he did in Buffalo. Was it 2 seasons ago when he hit the guy on the back of the helmet? But I think it's kind of a weird comparison when you put Gronk and Marshawn next to each other, but it makes a lot of sense. They, from what I understand, neither have spent any game checks. They didn't As far as I remember, Marshawn says he's never spent a game check. He's living off endorsements. They haven't spent a lot of money. They don't go extravagant. Gronk, I mean, he's, like I said, touchdown caveman. He's when it's all said and done, and apparently his agent decided to try to leave the door open a little bit in case New England called. That he may come back next year. So I don't know how official this retirement is. I've heard conflicting reports. One saying that if Tom Brady called later on in the season, that he would likely come back. And then I've heard others say the very same agent who said he had negotiated a deal where Gronk didn't have to go to training camp. He could just show up and play the season. And Gronk said no.
Wow.
So he would have pulled straight like with Jerome Bettis there at the end. I don't think Jerome Bettis practiced throughout the week. He showed up on Sundays and got his touches and went home because he was so beat up. And apparently Gronk said no to that. So it's kind of conflicting reports. If he said no to no training camp as a first step, I have a hard time believing that if November or December call comes and Tom Brady's like, "Hey, bro, I need you," I have a hard time believing he's gonna step back out of that. We haven't heard the last of Gronk. I think Gronk is going to be doing TV. He's probably going to be doing some kind of wrestling. I would not be surprised if he tried to pull like a Brian Bosworth and try to become some fucking Hollywood action star of like some low budget straight to DVD shit, because that screams some shit that Gronk would do, man. And I've never even.
Well, it's interesting, man, because following the loss to Philly last year, that's kind of a point when a lot of those supposed reports of drama and disdain and conflicting egos in New England really came to a head, because they lost the game as the heavy favorite. It was to Philly of all teams, so it's kind of like Philly was sticking them for the loss back in 2005, I believe it was.
Yeah.
They had the whole benching Butler thing. Like, shit was kind of tense up there for the first time of their whole run. And the thing that really stuck out to me when Gronk first spoke about retirement was that they put a bunch of incentives for staying healthy into his contract the season before. And when he came back this year, because he did miss some time, he didn't get any of those incentives.
Yeah.
Two, the guy, like, we can't call him a kid anymore. Like, he's pushing 30, and he's had like 3 back surgeries. He's had knee surgeries. He's had forearm surgery. Like, I feel like he's starting to come to that point that a lot of young men who approach that age reach of, okay, I'm starting to see the big picture and really think long term. Like, I'm not just completely just living for the moment, in the moment, like I did when I was 21 and 25 and 27. So when the thought of not having to go out and go through training camp and go through OTAs, and then on Sunday you're getting hit by Bobby Wagner and Malcolm Jenkins and fucking TJ Ward, if he was still in the league, like, he doesn't have to worry about all that anymore. And two, Gronk is boys with The Rock, and he's boys with Sly Stallone. Both of them have been in his ear about, bro, you can make bank doing other shit than this football stuff. Like nothing against, Brady and Belichick and that whole set, but there's movies, there's WWE, there's a lot of stuff he can get into. I mean, hell, fucking Pat McAfee has a podcast.
Yeah.
Never has to kick another ball again the rest of his life.
Can you imagine the Rob Gronkowski YouTube show of just traveling?
Done deal.
I mean, just traveling and partying.
Yeah, he has a built-in fan base of people, and he has a bunch of famous, like, he'll have Shaq on his show. Like I said, he'll have The Rock on his show. He'll have Sly Stallone. I'm sure the young lady who he's with, I believe, is like a model or something. So, she's got connections. Like, he shows up to NBA games all the time. Like, he's cool with some NBA players. Like, there's a lot. And
here's what's crazy, though, is in all of my years of kind of disdain for the New England Patriots, I can't ever remember any of it really being aimed at him.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
it's
ever
odd.
recall just like, I've never been like, okay, fuck everybody but him. But it's just kind of like whenever I hear a story about him, I don't automatically catch myself like rolling my eyes, like, oh, here's a Tom Brady story. Fuck. Here's a Bill Belichick story. Fuck.
Fuck.
Like Willie McGinnis. Fuck. Rob Gronkowski. Oh, what do he do now? Like,
Yeah.
did he do a headstand into a fucking punch bowl full of Budweiser? Like, that's a Gronk
Yeah.
story. And I mean, I think like I've kind of, I hope I'm not like this with fucking Tom Brady, but I think I've like now that it's kind of over, I'm kind of looking back on it like, man, Gronk was like an entertaining ass dude, and he did a lot of shit, and he kind of like me and you talked about it. You see in the NFL, the rise of one position leads to the rise of its counterpart. Right. And Gronk came in the league at 21, 2010. I mean, it kind of coincided with the rise of Cam Chancellor and the kind of the new breed of hard hitting. You had to have a big guy back there playing safety to counteract the big guy catching passes and
running up the seam. And it's like, dude,
I mean, you had to be able to have an
huge.
athletic big guy. So, I mean, we've seen that with Cam and Keanu O'Neal in Atlanta. We've seen Landon Collins now. We've seen, I mean, a lot of the safety position has kind of had its renaissance here. So, I mean, we're probably have our best group of safeties since like Ronnie Lott was on the field.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
I mean even in little subtle stuff like the announcers on a week by week basis starting to notice, like I think of times when, you know, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were just commenting on, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, Cam and Landon in particular, like, dude, that guy is a linebacker playing safety. Like, have you seen him? He's huge. And but it's necessary. You got Gronk running around, and then after that, you got, you know, your Travis Kelce, your Zach Ertz, your Tyler Eifert. Like, these dudes are basically buff NBA players.
Yeah, you've got 6'6", 6'7", and the only reason they're playing tight end is because they've got an extra 40 or 50 pounds.
Right.
Like if Gronk was 220, he'd be a wide receiver. But because he's 260, they're like, fuck it, put him on the line. Yeah. At the very least, he can push some dudes over. I mean, he doesn't even have to be able to block all that well.
He can. Hell, when the team formerly of Oakland got their asses handed to them by New England, they didn't ask Gronk to block Khalil the whole play. They just said, like, hey, chip him when he's on his way.
Slow him down.
Yeah. Give us that extra second, because otherwise he's going to take Tom's fucking head off.
And I know I posted a question in the group the other day that kind of rustled some jimmies. It wasn't something that I thought personally, okay? And that question was, is Gronk the greatest tight end ever? It was a question I heard posed. I still think the standard of all-time great tight ends is Tony Gonzalez, and then everybody else below him.
Right.
It's very much like the wide receiver talk. You can talk about Terrell Owens. You can talk about Randy Moss. You can talk about Marvin Harrison. You can talk about those guys. It's still Jerry Rice. Okay. It's
just sheer. Yeah. At some point, sheer volume has to count for
in a league in the time that Jerry Rice played was a run first league, and he is so far and away above everybody else in receiving yards, touchdowns. A funny stat that I saw brought up: there's only Gronkowski is tied for second for most postseason touchdowns with 12. There's only one guy ahead of him, and that's Jerry Rice with 22. Like,
yeah, it's insane, honestly, man. And I kind of like I had mentioned in that particular thread, like I'm not defending the dude or trying to give him credit, but I genuinely feel like when Tom Brady says that he doesn't like the whole GOAT, greatest ever, blah, blah, blah terminology, I think he really means it. Not because he doesn't think he's good or that I buy into his whole, you know, humble Boy Scout routine too much, but because trying to determine that is so much more complex than people want to give it credit to.
Yeah, you can't just take
like
player A
there's
and player
so
B.
many mitigating factors.
So many variables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not Gronk is the greatest tight end ever, the fact that he's in the conversation speaks for itself. But I'll tell you this: is he a Hall of Famer? Yes.
Yeah,
Simply because
he's
of dominance.
absolutely first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Probably the best. I mean, probably the best tight end in the last 9 years. I know Antonio Gates fans are going to be. Antonio Gates hasn't been the same guy for like the last 4 years.
Yeah, and understandably so, because he's getting up there. I don't think anybody reasonably would hold that against him.
No.
But yeah, man, it's happy trails for Gronk. He's gonna go do his thing. He's gonna get whatever size Jordans he can fit and do. Probably I definitely see him getting into acting or some form of like independent content creation. But I really don't see WWE long term. Maybe a 1 or 2 off, but
yeah, I can see that. I can see a special like coming out. Oh, Gronk's in the crowd, and he comes out and body slams somebody real quick, and then disappears. Like that's
yeah.
I don't see him making wrestling a career. I just think the YouTube like the Gronk show on HBO could just him walking up to random people shirtless and shotgunning a beer, and like that would be the Gronk show.
Hit, book it.
Yeah.
Moving right along to things pertaining to the end of the last NFL season. You guys can probably take a wild guess where we're headed. So we're in that period before before the draft, before OTAs, where the brass of the league, owners, coaches, GMs, executives, they're having all these back and forth meetings. They're trying to get feedback and determine how they can make things tighter and more efficient moving forward. A lot of people out there criticize the NFL because they don't like the power structure of the NFL, but for all of their flaws and compromising, they do make a legitimate effort to try to get shit as straight as possible. With that being said and understood, we are 2 months removed now, and these virgins are still bitching. Still bitching. Sean Payton has been beating the drum and blowing the trumpet and just going on and on and on and on about the replay rule being reformed to essentially, I mean, it's basically would be the equivalent to challenging a non-call to get a call.
Oh, that boy, actually, since we've been talking, it passed.
It's official.
It is official. Since the beginning of our talk, the NFL makes big pass interference rule change. All offensive and defensive pass interference calls and non-calls can now be challenged.
Wow.
So
breaking news, folks. Sean
Payton and the Benson family, the owners of the Saints, have they pitched a fit enough that they finally got their way, and they did so by walking around going, we're not going to we're not doing this for us, we're doing this for y'all so it doesn't happen to y'all. There was only one team that voted against the rule change: Cincinnati Bengals. Let's see. People compromise on long-held views because people wanted to get it right, Commissioner Roger Goodell said after the vote.
Wow.
Now, the 32 head coaches crafted a proposal to add an official in the booth to oversee, quote-unquote, clear and obvious mistakes on DPI, OPI, roughing the passer, and defenseless players rules. The head coaches then voted 32-0 to present it. Some coaches are not happy. So yeah.
Well, shout out to our boy Zach Rohn, because in our pre-podcast chat, as we were prepping for this recording, yeah, he basically, I guess he had, I don't know if he was watching NFL Network at the time, but yeah, he said this is legitimately going to go down. All right, joking and bullshit aside, obviously we like to kind of give the same shit about this whole sequence.
I especially like giving the same shit.
Yes, but Yeah, what kind of ramifications does that have moving forward? See,
It's a
here's my
slippery
thing.
slope.
It is.
Slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. It's subjective, no matter whether the refs are full-time, part-time, rookie, new, blah, 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 whatever. It's subjective. 3, Colin Cowherd actually made an interesting point today on the show, and he says, okay, you have the Saints in particular. The Saints are in question. They're the ones who are at the center of this whole firestorm, right? If you are pressing for a rule and a condition that is now the precedent and the foundation, the standard, that is going to lead to more pass interference calls, ultimately, who is that going to hurt? That's going to hurt teams with bad corners and bad secondaries in general. And who has bad corners?
Saints.
The Saints. I know Marshawn Lattimore popped in his rookie season, but that sophomore slump was very, very real for the kid last year.
Yeah, the opposing receivers caught onto his bullshit, and they weren't afraid to go after him or Eli Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And
2, like I gotta wonder whether or not this is going to change the long dynamic, particularly in postseason games or games with playoff implications late in the season. Like we all know, in the fourth quarter, referees take their whistle and they kind of just do that there because they don't want to be the guy who jumped the gun and called some questionable shit on a 50-50 play that ends up deciding a game.
I mean, look at it like this, man. Defensive pass interference is a spot foul. You imagine being a ref that calls the 40-yard defensive pass interference that puts the team in field goal range? Like, and then I'm surprised they didn't add all penalties to it, because if you ask any offensive or defensive lineman, there's holding on every fucking play. It's just a matter of, can you see it?
Yeah.
And so what we're going to get is we're going to get some fucking head coach. Please let it be Sean Payton. He's going to throw a challenge flag right outside of 2 minutes because they kept that part of the rule. He's going to throw some challenge flag just hoping. Like, are they going to have to specify who like, okay, just using my own guy as an example, Desmond Trufant held Michael Thomas. Or is he going to say, okay, this is what we're looking for? Or is he going to say, oh, no, I'm challenging the whole fucking secondary. I want y'all to look at every matchup and see if somebody got held or pass interfered with. In which case, that's going to take forever because, I mean, if the Saints are running 5 wide, you got to check 5 matchups. Or, like I said, or is he going to have to specify this is what we're looking at? And then what exactly determines that?
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I feel like the savvier and the more clever defensive coordinators out there, guys like Steve Spagnuolo, for instance, who's now with the Chiefs and who's going to have to work with not exactly marquee players next year, they are going to situationally prepare to avoid that situation. Once it gets late into the game, if the opposing team is less than, say, 30 yards out, okay, just play off. Don't play man press. Just play off.
I mean,
that way, when those guys come off the line of scrimmage, they have to go 5-10 yards before a DB is even near them. I mean, so fuck being hold. The guy's fucking down the field.
If you thought them nitpicking what's a catch and what's not a catch was bad, what is pass interference and what's not pass interference? Because a guy putting his hand on somebody, I mean, we have this argument every year. Oh, that's pass interference. He didn't look back at the ball. Like, does that, like, at what point? And then we're going to be doing this shit in slow motion now. So it's a slippery slope. So thank you, Saints. Thank you, New Orleans.
So basically, every broadcaster can go ahead and get ready to pay for another half hour worth of advertisements because this shit might extend games just enough.
They didn't give him any more challenge flags, and then they still kept it within 2 minutes. It has to go to the booth. But to me, this shit shouldn't be a challengeable. Like, coaches shouldn't have a chance in this. It should be strictly from this kind of thing. Penalties from the booth only.
Yeah, late in season, maybe not so much wild card, but divisional and conference championships, this shit is absolutely going to come up as a desperate ploy by some teams who probably find themselves in situations that they aren't really qualified for.
Desperate teams who hold fucking boycotts of the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Who call for a game to be replayed 2 weeks after it was fucking over.
Hopefully this does not, Saints fans, all BS aside, you better hope this doesn't come back to bite you in the ass.
I fucking hope it does.
Because 2 years in a row of emotionally jarring losses at the last minute, I'm not sure how much more you guys can stand. Like, if I'm the Saints fan, I'm just removing myself from the internet for a year.
The only way this comes full circle is in the playoffs next year. The fucking Saints get called on a reviewed pass interference. That would be fucking perfect. Like, the rule that they fought to get instilled in the rule book, if it comes back and fucking bites them next year,
yeah,
the internet is going to shut down because of me, because I'm going to fucking destroy every Saints fan.
Oh, see, now you got me wanting it to happen just to see the world burn. Oh, moving right along. The last of our football-centric topics here, because, we don't have enough football and we don't have enough LeBron James. Shout out to our OG members who are going to get that reference. You talk about the dynamic of PR, perception, reputation, things of that nature. Look at the last 2 weeks for Big Ben. Obviously, AB, signing with Las Vegas and basically bringing his whole personal journey and escapade full circle was not a good look on Ben. Le'Veon Bell being signed by the Jets, who are making a legitimate effort to not be New England's bitch anymore, was not a good look on Big Ben. And now recently you have this former player, I believe was like a former running back or something along those lines, basically said that Big Ben got a call from his former offensive coordinator that he absolutely hated.
Todd Haley.
Rolled his eyes and then proceeded to purposely fumble the ball just to spite the guy. Now, granted, James Harrison has come out and done a little bit of damage control. Juju Smith-Schuster has done a little bit of damage control through Instagram posts and Twitter and things of that nature. But
Juju wasn't on the team at the time.
Yeah.
And the little bit of James Harrison interview I heard on Cowherd, they asked him, and James Harrison was like, I don't remember the play. Like, I don't remember this. He's on defense.
Yeah, he kind of,
He's on defense. So
he did kind of sidestep the question.
I mean, and honestly, after the comments from the GM or the GM, the Big Ben and 52 kids, can you blame any player that may still be on the team from like or in good standing with the team for not going, oh yeah, Ben did that shit?
Mm-mm. Oh,
so,
no.
I mean,
basically what it comes down to, from my perspective moving forward, is between all of this seeming turmoil in Pittsburgh and a few states down the road, all the things that Cleveland has done, another team that no longer wants to be the bitch of a AFC powerhouse.
No.
Does all of this drama have us underestimating the Steelers' potential? Like, are we being too reactionary? Are we jumping the gun, thinking that they are A, not going to win the division, or B, just be bad in general?
Honestly, if anything, I think the logo on the side of the helmet is causing people to overestimate. This has been, if this was any other team, if this was I'm trying to think of somebody, if this was the fucking Bengals, this would be a nuclear bomb going off. But because it's Pittsburgh and because it's the Rooney family and they're just like, oh, it's black and gold, everyone is kind of like, oh, no, everything's fine, everything's good. I saw the replay. I can't say with 100% certainty that it was an intentional fumble. But what kind of looks fishy to me is when you watch that replay, the two tight ends immediately look to the sidelines and raise their hands like, Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
That's their immediate reaction. And to me, it very much looks like that wasn't the play we called. What the fuck are we doing?
Right.
And so they're looking at their offensive coordinator, and Ben just, there's no reaction. And so, again, I can't say with 100% certainty that that's what happened. But the optics on it are fucking terrible. If this was the Bengals, if this was the Saints, if this was Atlanta, this would be a fucking nuclear bomb going off in a locker room. You have lost your best running back, your best receiver, and your quarterback is being publicly questioned for being a fucking child. And then the ownership and GM have pretty much come out and said, like, oh, no, this is absolutely Ben's team, and then the 52 kids he has to bring along with it. If I was one of those 52 kids, I'd be like, let's hold the fuck up on this. There's a reason with Jesse James signed with Detroit. There's a reason Le'Veon went to the Jets. And everybody assumed it's, Le'Veon wants more money. Maybe it was just going to fuck out of there. I mean, the argument has consistently been that, Tomlin has lost the locker room. What if it's Big Ben chasing it the fuck away, and because the GM won't say, hey, Ben, you need to sit the fuck down, Tomlin feels like his hands are tied. And it's the other players that are acting out on behalf of Tomlin. Because Tomlin can't. What's Tomlin going to do? Tomlin going to go to he's going to go to the press conference after his GM said Ben and 52 kids. Tomlin's going to go, oh, no, Ben needs to get his shit together or we're going to sink. So, I mean.
For me, it's a question of, for the guys who are remaining and who have been in between these two opposing sides, what does this do for morale moving forward? Because as far as, getting people to take the spots of those guys, I don't think Pittsburgh is going to have any issue with that. I mean, Pittsburgh has a history of being able to pick receivers from programs that no one's ever heard of and make them, just studs. So just in terms of overall feel and relationships, what if anything changes? Does Ben not go onto the local Pittsburgh radio and just point the finger at everybody but himself moving forward? Does he kind of, take a chill pill on that? Who knows? But the other thing with regard to their prowess within the division, obviously Cincinnati is a mess. That much is understood. The Ravens they lost a little bit of talent, but they mainly lost aging pieces. But they signed a Mark Ingram, so between him and Lamar Jackson, they'll be able to run it down Pittsburgh's throat. And Cleveland is what Cleveland is now. If anything, from a competition standpoint, I'd be worried about the defense, because outside of that pass rush, what else is going on?
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is if we were talking about any other team that are to hear Pittsburgh fans tell it 2 years ago, it's funny now because they if you ask Pittsburgh fans about Le'Veon Bell, it's he ain't shit. He ain't shit now, but 2 years ago he was the best running back in football. And if you ask him about Antonio Brown, most of them are still kind of like, Antonio is still talented, and I'm glad we didn't pay him and all this other shit. But if any other team without the Steelers' kind of aura and reputation lost their number one receiver, and their number one running back, and then we had someone clearly to blame for it, which coin toss, Tomlin, Roethlisberger. To me, it's Ben. I think my theory that Bell and Brown are kind of acting out on behalf of Tomlin because he can't say shit because ownership is 100% behind Ben. I just think that the person that was kind of drove them out would be held accountable by now. I can tell you right now, if Dan Quinn pissed off Julio Jones and, we'll say Matt Ryan, and traded them, Dan Quinn will be on the next fucking thing smoking out of Atlanta. So, and that's – and so
man,
I mean, say if Matt Ryan came in and was just like, oh, I can't fucking win with Julio. And I mean, obviously Julio's not the same kind of personality as Antonio. He's not. They're polar
about as
So that and Matt Ryan's not the same. He's not the same personality as Big Ben. He's very understated. He doesn't. It's very we. He doesn't get on a radio show and like, oh, these guys need to do better. He's not doing no shit like that. He takes ownership of it. So it's kind of a hard comparison to make. But if any team lost their two best offensive players, heads would fucking roll. And that doesn't feel like that's what it is. I think it's being understated because it's Pittsburgh. Most teams with that kind of history, New England, San Francisco, Dallas, they would downplay. I mean, Dallas is downplaying their quarterback thing now. Oh, Dak's the fucking future. Dak's not. Dak is going to be overpaid, and they're going to fucking run themselves out of the division with that.
I mean, not to divert too much, but I think in terms of kind of getting a handle on Jera's impulsiveness and also drafting good talent, the Cowboys have been pretty solid the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly more stable than they were, like, say, 2013, 2014, 2015. But the whole thing about Dak not taking any type of, hometown discount, so to speak, that does concern me because, there's some talent there, but he needs a lot of functioning pieces around him to work.
Me, his ceiling is a middle of the pack quarterback, and I don't think that he believes that. I think he is very much like, oh, I'm a top 10 guy, and he's not. And that's not to say you can't have a good and productive career as a middle tier guy. I mean, Trent Dilfer's got a fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I mean,
Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson's got a fucking Super Bowl.
Rex Grossman almost got one.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what you are, and I mean that to me, that's one of the hardest things to do is admit the truth to yourself about what you are. If you can do that, like, look, this is my role in this. This is the part I'm going to play. Ryan Fitzpatrick knows he's not. Every fucking deal he signs, he knows I'm not long-term option here. I'm just the guy who's keeping the seat warm. Signed it. He's going to be the starting quarterback in Miami this year. He knows the following season he's not going to be on the fucking roster. Whoever they draft going to take over. He knows what his role is. He knew what his role was in Tampa. That's why he was great to start the year. Hey, I'm just keeping the seat warm until Jameis gets back from suspension. And they had a fucking blast. They beat the Saints to start the year. They won a couple games. He showed up wearing Deshaun Jackson's fucking outfit. They had a good time. I mean, he knew what he was. The sooner a player admits that they know what they are to themselves, the better it helps the team. Like Dak could say, "Look, I'm good, but I'm limited. I'm limited. What I can do is going to be based on what the guys around me can do. He has one of the best offensive lines in football, and he's got Zeke Elliott. He can hand the ball off 20 times a game to get some pressure off of him. That'll help him throw to Amari. So Cowboys fans need to be very worried that Jerry's going to overpay him. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, how that division in general does, because Philly is not going anywhere. They very quietly picked up Sendejo from Minnesota.
Yep.
But yeah, man, kind of reverting back to Pittsburgh to close that out. I'm not ready to just cast them aside into not making the playoffs, but if Cleveland is functional and if Lamar Miller develops some semblance of being able to hit a target 20 yards downfield.
Oh, you mean Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, excuse me. It's going to be tough sledding. It's going to be tough for him to get into a wild card spot. And my barometer for last year and then moving forward, how tough is it that in the 1 year that you finally beat New England in the regular season matchup, you also missed the playoffs? That's if I'm a Pittsburgh fan, like I want a lot more accountability out of everyone, including the brass.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop this this hot take right now. If the Steelers miss the playoffs again this year, which I think they will, they're gonna fire Mike Tomlin.
Which for that family with their track record would be really would be unreal.
And he's gonna be unemployed for all of about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Arizona Cardinals, here it comes.
Yeah.
Moving right along to our last major topic. Obviously, we are right in the middle of the glory that is the NCAA tournament. For 3 weeks out of the year, college basketball, a sport that is otherwise a little bit more niche and a little bit more obscure, takes over the world. Everyone gets into it. The people who try to act like they're not watching it, they're bullshit. You are. Literally everyone is. Now, obviously, I'm very lucky to be joined by you because we can get an unbiased perspective. Because posing this question to me isn't going to get us anywhere. So we'll get right into it. Does Zion Williamson make Duke, the prolific program that they are, the reputation they have, basically the New England of college basketball, does Zion make Duke likable?
I think he has definitely helped a long way this year because a lot of Zion, I've seen highlights of Zion since like his fucking junior year. So we in a time where I don't follow basketball, high school basketball recruiting. I don't follow that. I've known about Zion for a couple of years. The last time this happened where I knew of a fucking high school junior was LeBron. Right. I listened to Cowherd on the way home kind of break this down and like the marketability of Zion. And he kind of joked around that he's got that one name marketability. Right. When it comes in basketball, the great players are known single name: Bird, Magic, Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, Zion. I won't say that he has brought more interest to March Madness simply because it's March Madness, dude. Every year I've got 60-year-old ladies walking past me at my job going, "Hey, did you fill out your bracket?" Like, yeah. So, I mean, it's March Madness is its own beast. I do think that this year there has been a lot more interest in the college game in general. Just because, I mean, they're talking college basketball all I mean, between him and I'm going to sound like a dumbass because I forget is it Murray State, the kid Ja Morant? Yeah. Yeah, him. I mean, we're talking about the number one and the number two picks right there. That those two guys are going 1-2. Right. And I don't know if it makes Duke more likable because to me they've still always been kind of the rich kid school. Like that's how it always, to me, Duke has always struck me as the private school kids who didn't get dirty on the playground. I still hold that. I remember watching the Fab Five, man. The Fab Five, those were the playground kids. Those are the guys you got dirty with and skinned your elbows up diving for loose balls out on the playground. Whereas the Duke players were the guys you went to the gym with, and they're the ones that showed up with, like, their parents bought them all the fresh gear, and like they'd have the tearaway pants. They weren't playing in like hand-me-down sneakers and just some jersey shorts. That they had specific basketball gear. Whereas then you'd have the playground guys playing in like, oh, this is just a shirt I can't wear to school no more. So so Duke still has that reputation to me. So I mean, I remember watching North Carolina, and to me, in the heyday of my lifetime was of course, the Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson days. Still some of the most fun basketball I've ever watched in my life. Like, I remember this is back before I had cable, and they would show the games on like that we had a local station that they showed like ACC basketball. And whenever I found out a North Carolina game was on, I didn't give a fuck who they were playing. They mostly play like in conference games. Like you'd see North Carolina, Wake Forest, or North Carolina, Georgia Tech, or some shit like that. and they were always fun to watch. And Duke obviously would get their share. I still hate fucking Trajan Langdon. I hate what's the kid, the white kid, the blonde haired dude. I think he's an assistant now, Wojnarowski or something. And he would the opposing point guard would come up the court and he'd smack the court with both of his hands. I just want to punch him in the fucking face. And then of course the kid, what was it last year? The one who's always tripping somebody who's no longer in the league, I think.
He's in Utah.
Okay. Perfect fucking place for him. But yeah, man, Duke is, I mean, they're still, to me, the rich kid school. I think Zion has made them, he's giving them a little street cred just because, like I said, everybody's wanting to get a peek at this kid, man. And I've actually got a question to pose to you that I heard also discussed on Cowherd today.
Okay.
All right. So we know the big NBA free agents this year. So say you are insert any NBA team with the number one pick. We'll say the Knicks for Zach's sake. Say you're the Knicks and you sign Kevin Durant, you sign Kyrie Irving, and you get the number one pick. Are you trading that number one pick, Zion, in a package deal for Anthony Davis?
Okay.
So you get a chance at Kyrie, KD, and Zion, or Kyrie, KD, and Anthony Davis. And kind of the fringe benefit of that is if you keep that number one pick, you also get to keep some of the other pieces that you're not going to have to trade. You're not going to package that in to get Anthony Davis. So your team's probably a little deeper with Zion, but you got the three current biggest stars.
See, here's the thing. The resurrection and resurgence of the Knicks brand and of New York basketball on a professional level, no matter what the pieces involved in it, whether it's these free guys, whether it's a set of free agents 2, 5, 7 years from now, the New York Knicks coming back into the fold is going to turn the NBA on its head, regardless of who it is. With that being said, and I don't know if this could be considered an abstract answer, I'm keeping Zion. For the simple fact that AD, look, I love AD. I think AD is super talented, but he's not super young anymore. He's kind of at the middle point of his career. And at times he struggles to stay on the court. Whereas with Zion, this kid is already physically a prodigy right now. Once he gets into the pros and gets around professional trainers and nutritionists, he's going to drop the baby weight. He's going to be 6'6", 255, 260, shredded, and moves like a ballerina at his size. Like, granted, I don't think anybody is reasonably jumping the gun and making LeBron comparisons as of yet. But if nothing else, for him to move the way he does and have the agility that he does at his size is unreal.
Sense, dude.
And he hasn't been trained and developed at a professional level. Think about when he gets around the real deal people to get him like, hey, if you use this little technique and you tweak this and you do this, he's going to be a monster. So as much as I'm excited to see what the future holds for AD not being in New Orleans and not being under the Benson family who has football people running their NBA franchise and don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, AD's been there for how long? And he played with who else besides Boogie?
Drew Holiday.
Like, as excited as I am to see what's in the future for AD, Zion to the Knicks is just, it's the storyline writes itself.
I mean, that has to be like dream scenario for to me. I feel like it would not only be the dream scenario for the NBA, but also the nightmare scenario. Simply because you run like if the Knicks get the number one pick, if I'm the commissioner, I am pushing Dolan to sell this fucking team because you don't want. He wasted Porzingis. I mean, Porzingis he would have been a fucking star, an international star in the NBA's biggest city, and he fucking wasted it. So you run the risk of him also wasting Zion, and that is a fucking nightmare. But the initial, oh shit, he's going to the biggest, like he's going to resurrect this team just by when they call his name. When they hand him that New York Knicks hat and he's holding up that New York Knicks jersey on the stage, ticket sales shoot through the roof. I mean, they're already fucking selling out now. And I mean,
see, my whole thing with regard to Dolan and that whole prospect is this. I've been deemed, and I've called myself the mayor of Oakland. Obviously, I'm a very proud Californian, even though I'm first generation in my family. My parents are from the South. But I have never had any issue or trepidation in recognizing the fact that New York is at the top of the food chain. It is the cultural capital of the world. It is the financial capital of the world. And when I went there for the first time, that's when everything that you grow up seeing on TV and in movies, it all comes full head. You're like, oh shit, this is serious. James Dolan is an individual who owns this franchise in the financial capital of the world. Billionaires and business contingencies and law firms literally surround you everywhere you go. Even when you're in the hood, you could be in the Bronx, you could be in Flatbush, Brooklyn, wherever. Money is in New York. If this man finds himself with his team having that caliber of talent, he better get his fucking act together quick, because some group or some faction of people with the money and the pull and the social and political influence to make shit happen, I'm telling you, they're going to find a way to get him out of there.
Yeah, dude, I say we start a fucking Sports Wars GoFundMe, and we put a Sports Wars conglomerate together and buy the fucking Knicks. We need somebody with some money and get these Sports Wars views up, man, so we can y'all subscribe, share, get people to watch these fucking videos, so we can get monetized, so we can buy the Knicks and run them right.
Yes, because it asks. Something's got to give, man.
It makes no sense.
I know
man.
We always come back to it, and
there are certain brands in sports that are just synonymous. Like, okay, the Dallas Cowboys, the star on the side of the helmet. I fucking hate the Cowboys, but I understand that brand. Okay. You got in NASCAR, that 24 with Jeff Gordon, that number 3 with Dale Earnhardt. Everybody knew those are instantly recognizable brands. The New York Yankees hat. The Knicks are that fucking brand. You have the Knicks, you have the Lakers. Those are the most recognizable brand. There's a reason that in all the NBA's years, through all the fucking teams changing logos and changing jerseys, there's a reason that the Knicks and the Lakers have stayed near their basic designs. They've stayed the same because of that. There's a reason the Cowboys don't change their fucking logo. There's a reason they don't change their jerseys. Same thing with the Yankees. Yankees pinstripes. 100 fucking years. 100 years of pinstripes. Mm-hmm. They do not change them. They are a recognizable brand. No. That logo doesn't change.
Anyone who would suggest that the Yankees should change their shit needs to be like jailed.
Fired. Just get the fuck out. Like, who do you work for? I work for McDonald's. You're fucking fired. Get out. There's certain things you don't change. That the hat you're wearing, that North Carolina logo has not changed since Jordan was wearing it. Since before then.
Since forever.
You don't change it. You do not change a recognizable brand, logo. There's a reason that shitty teams in all sports change their logos every fucking 5 years. There's a reason behind that. The Cowboys have been rocking that same fucking helmet since they came into the league. There's something to be said about that. And the Knicks have Dolan has he's been not even running in place. He's running in place but falling backwards,
stumbling over himself. And now that that's understood, man, another quick thing I want to get your thoughts on. When is the NBA gonna move on from this whole lottery shit? Like, I truly don't get it.
This is the first year that they're trying the tweak in their system. Whereas tanking doesn't automatically give you the it doesn't automatically give you the best chance of getting the number one pick. Which reminds me, we actually didn't do our tankathon sim lottery this week. Oh shit, I'd be fucking thrilled with this, dude. Hell yeah, yo. I did our sim lottery.
Okay.
I'm gonna start at 7 because it makes me fucking happy this week. Number 7 would go to Atlanta by way of Dallas, the Trae Young Luka trade. Because it's outside of the top 5, it goes to Atlanta. Number 6 would be Chicago, which would make Aaron want to fucking burn all of his bulls. Number 5 would be Phoenix. Number 4 would be Cleveland. Number 3 would be the Knicks. Number 2 would be the Wizards. And the number 1.
Are you shitting
the
me?
number 1 pick with Zion Williamson would be the Atlanta fucking Hawks. If the Atlanta Hawks got fucking Zion to pair with Trae Young and whoever they have at this number 7 pick, let's see who they would mock us to. That mixed it up. So yeah, they see as it stands right now, the Knicks have the number 1 pick. The way they redistributed it this year, instead of having the best chance to have a number 1 pick, they actually split it out amongst the top 4 teams. The 1, 2, and 3 all have a 14% chance of landing the number 1 pick. So if you're one of the 3 worst teams in the league, you've got the same chance. So anybody outside, like it gets worse. Like Chicago's the 4th worst team right now, which Aaron's got to be fucking dying. 12.5% for number 1 overall. Atlanta's the 5th worst team, 10.5%. Dallas is technically the 6th worst team, which works out great for Atlanta because that means they would have the 6th pick. So that works out. It works out great for Atlanta if Dallas ends up right there. Because number 1
that would be. I mean, see. Here's the thing: if let's say a Cleveland or a Chicago somehow ends up with the number 1 over New York, that's not we've seen. I think Chicago would probably do pretty well with them, but we've seen Cleveland mismanage the shit out of top draft picks before.
Yeah.
So. But Atlanta, that would be a true plot twist because the Hawks, to me, they strike me as one of those teams that is just kind of, they've had a handful of playoff runs, with Al Horford in recent years, and then they ran into LeBron, and that was the end of that. But you get a young prodigy number 1 pick to go along with another young star, who's really coming into his own. That's going to flip the whole reaction and response and perception to that team. So,
oh shit!
Yeah, I mean, even still, I feel like a traditional 1 through 10 or 1 through however draft based solely on record and no lottery. Like, I don't see how that would be a disadvantage to the NBA in any capacity.
Well, the problem with that though is I think the reason they first installed the lottery is because you were getting teams that were just like, oh, we're gonna field like a team full of UPS drivers and like beer truck guys and just fucking go out there. And they'd win like 10 games and like, oh, we got the number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. And I mean that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the specter of that, but at the same time, it's like Silver is, and not to take away from what the things that Stern did, even though I know David Stern is not popular in terms of how he's received long term. But Silver is a progressive enough guy to put in shit to basically let GMs and owners know, like, all right, look, we know you want the number one pick, but damn it, you still need to sell tickets and you still need to get TV ratings from these massive contracts that I negotiated X amount of years ago. So fucking, put a decent product out there.
I tell you what you do, dude. I tell you what you do. You do exactly what the NCAA does. Playoff time, you have your top 16 teams, regardless of conference. Go have a big ass tournament. Top 16 teams. I don't give a fuck if it's 10 in the West and 6 in the East. Top 16 teams. The other 16 get the NBA's version of the NIT. Instead of a 7-game series, you get either a 1-game, 3-game series. The winner of that tournament gets the number one pick.
I can see that. I can dig that.
And you do like invert the draft order based on that.
Yeah.
So you don't have anybody taken because they're ever because one of the benefits of being, I want to say you get home court in the not in the playoffs tournament,
right?
And so you get, like I said, you get 16 teams in the playoffs, and then on the off days you get the 1-game tournament or the 3. I mean, I would say 1 game instead of a 3-game tournament. That way you can play that during like the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, streamline it.
And then once you start getting into the teeth of the actual NBA playoffs, you don't want shit distracting from that. You don't want, hey, they're playing for the number 1 seed or playing for the number 1 pick. So you get that shit over and done with in the first 2 rounds of the real playoffs, and then you can focus on the Eastern or Western Conference Finals. Boom, problem solved. We solve fucking problems here at Sports Wars, baby.
Chop it up, write it down, email us, holler at us. We'll get you the whole format. And see, damn it, when the NBA executives watch this video, that's a solution that is merit-based, number 1, and 2, prevents me from having to feel like I'm on a game show watching the fucking lottery results. Like, I don't want to see a bunch of balls floating around.
Hell no. I don't want to see some owner's kid in a bow tie take, like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about it.
No.
Let me see Trae Young and Luka go at it in a playoff game.
Straight up. That's it.
There you go.
Boom. And in closing, we got to touch on this one, not to be a complete down and get too serious, but Connor McGregor abruptly announced his retirement from the UFC. Not even 4 hours later, it came out that he is currently under investigation for sexual abuse. So this is my PSA out there for all the kids who are probably in middle or high school who follow us and watch this stuff, who are eventually going to be in college athletics, and God willing, they may get to the pros. Bruh, you have got to move smarter. And all the stuff at the OGs, at the barbershop, and at the gym, or at church, at the community center, all the stuff that they tell you about interacting with young ladies in a smart, mild, controlled manner as you are coming up through the ranks, they're not exaggerating. They're not bullshitting. All that shit is true. I wasn't an athlete, but I did go to college. I did find myself being blessed enough to hold pretty good jobs at an early age, work my way up, relocated. All of that shit they said about the whole nature of interacting with the ladies, all that shit is true. Don't take their words for granted or think that they're exaggerating or just trying to talk your ear off. It's all true. And it stands to reason even when you do reach that adulthood stage and you're getting older. Conor McGregor is like, what, 32, 33?
Yeah.
And here he is getting caught up in this situation. Now, granted, we're not going to sit here and condemn anybody before all the facts are out, because like I say, like Roy sometimes says, keep the same energy. If you want us to wait for the facts in certain situations, guess what? That means you got to wait for the facts in certain other situations where you might not be prone to. But even still, the fact that this is a thing in this current climate, in this current area, it's not a good look, man. It's not.
Well, moral of the story, keep your hands to yourself. I mean, It's just like I don't know what went on. I personally I don't think the retirement announcement and the charge, I don't think they're related. I think there's, I mean, forgive me for using this term, a coincidence. I don't. I think I was actually listening to again Cowherd no, it wasn't Cowherd. It was somebody else this morning. That this is basically the announcing the retirement is basically it's a tool that boxers and fighters use to promote a fight or to try to get what they want out of contract negotiations.
Right.
Pacquiao did it. Mayweather did it. Mayweather's retired like 3 fucking times now. So I mean, Pacquiao's retired. Pacquiao's retired probably twice as many. So I mean, this is a common thing. I think McGregor's retirement is less real than Gronk's retirement. So I think Gronk could probably be talked into like, hey man, we're in the Super Bowl, can you come back? And he'd be like, fuck yeah, let me shotgun this bear. Whereas McGregor would come back if they're like, hey, we added a 0 into this contract. He'd be like, okay, I'm back. If you to all our listeners, if you ever get a chance, Conor McGregor has an alcohol. There's a liquor. I don't know if it's a scotch or it's a whiskey. Not that it matters. Read some of the reviews. It is amazing. My favorite review that I read about his liquor is that it is deceptively okay. So, which is a term that I've used to describe Kirk Cousins as quarterback, and I am out.
Oh wow! Whoa! Not to get too heavy. I am a Christian, despite my potty mouth and my ways. I know I'm rough around the edges, but I am a believer. I do not believe in premonition and seeing into the future, all that. But as soon as I heard my boy here say deceptively okay, I knew it was going back to Kirk Cousins. And on that note, we're going to catch you all next week. Like, comment, subscribe, join our Facebook group, and we'll catch you later. Peace out.
As always, fuck Tom Brady.